Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you. This episode brought to you by Loftel and Westall Insurance. And we're joined today by Weston Franklin, strength and conditioning coach here for Ponca City High. And we talked to you during the summer. This is the first time to talk to you during the season. So how things going? Because once you get into the school year, it does change a little bit. It gets a little bit more fast paced, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to my mom recently. Just had kind of one of those big conversations. Actually driving down a lot, and I drove down with the football team, so I drove my own car. So I called her for an hour. And I was catching up, I was like, she's like, calm down a little bit now. I was like, yeah. I was telling her, it was kind of crazy. I have, about 250 athletes, I think, give or take some. I think more on the give side, though. But walking in through those 6 hours today, throughout the school day, and 13 or 14 sports. So it can be chaos in the weight room sometimes. But now I kind of got the routine, got my head above water a little bit. I kind of, know what to expect, everything. So it's been rolling.
So what have you learned in these first few weeks of school? Because like I said, you got the fundamentals, the base of what you need to do, but it's the first time you're doing something like this. So what have you learned over the past few weeks?
That's a good question. I think the big thing for me is pick my battles.
Okay.
With these kids, they're high school kids. They're rebellious. They're going to do their own thing. There was coaches before me that did one thing. I may do something totally opposite. And so they may not be so willing to go from here to here. And so we'll have to keep inching that way. And so when I say pick my battles, I'm talking about and we're getting closer to being here, right? But one big thing I talked with just in class today, talking with kids about, hey, bring your shoes. There's no more reason we should not be wearing athletic shoes. We were not working out in jeans, and so it's okay. Those first couple weeks, it's I get it, but now the standard, and so that was kind of the one big thing. The other was just kind of just getting the chaos of it all just kind of relaxed. Because everybody's got a friend in there.
Right.
There's anywhere from 35 to 70 kids in my weightlifting classes. And so just trying to create a culture where, hey, you're going to get your workout done. You're not going to go talk to your friend over here while you're on this side of the room. Get your workout done. Then you'll hang out.
Well, and what's interesting about that, as a strength and conditioning side of things, the no phones thing may be different perspective for you because these kids go to different classes. They're friends. They don't get to talk. Well, when they are together, all of a sudden, they become really chatty and that social. So it's a beautiful thing in a way, some of this phone stuff, but sometimes it can make a position like you, when they do come together, a little bit tougher.
Yeah, no, for sure. I could definitely tell, sometimes it's the first time they seen their friend in 24 hours. Yeah. And the next time will be on Thursday when they come back into class. But so, there's definitely some rowdiness before, especially after if some kids get done with their workouts and they have 5 minutes left. It might be the loudest part of the day outside of, when weights are banging and music is on, is when they're all kind of chatting at the end of the workout. But the phone thing's been nice, too, because I don't have to worry about it. Already I don't like phones in the weight room regardless of the state law and everything else. But then there's even more reason not to now.
Well, I was going to say, usually the phone wasn't ever going to be in the weight room to begin with, but at the same time, the fact is those kids were communicating with each other a lot between classes, everything else, and now it's hey, I haven't seen you, and it's, you got 5 or 10 minutes to let them catch up before they're ready to work, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And, the funny thing is, too, so we did sprints today outside, and so I literally just paused doing those now. But so I had kids come in the third or fourth hour and we're doing sprints today? I was the word travels super quickly. I'm sure they're all athlete in a soccer sees his buddy in math class in second hour, and he did sprints first hour, and it's, you guys got sprints, and the athlete will come in third or fourth or whatever it is and talk about it. So I'm sure they have they're you got to do heavy squats today. And the athlete's they die inside a little bit. Yeah. So.
All right. All sports you're helping out with, and that's important. But I think the one that we always eye in on this time of year, and I think it's the one where you really can see the progress you're doing with strength and conditioning, is what happens on the gridiron.
Yeah.
And what you've seen so far from this team, and I know you haven't been here a long time, but you've implemented some stuff. When you watch what you've seen so far from Ponca City football in the short time you're here, are you proud of what these kids have accomplished? Because a lot of that goes to what they're accomplishing in the weight room, what they're doing on the field.
No, absolutely. I remember saying in the very first game against Enid, and from what I understand, like you said, this is my first year here, so, but Enid's kind of had our number in the last few years, and for a little bit. And last year the score was quite lopsided, and it was quite lopsided on our side this year. And so I remember talking to a couple of our linemen, because I saw their kids that started to fall out. They had kids cramping. It was also the first week, so it's not unheard of. But they had kids kind of falling out, getting tired. I was you guys are way better conditioned than these guys. Take some pride in that. You busted your butt this summer. You showed up to weights, you showed up to conditioning, you pushed yourself hard, you practice hard in August. Like, it's paying off now. You guys are in better shape. And so that's one thing I've noticed is, like, our conditioning levels, I feel like, are a lot better than a lot of other teams. And then I even talked to Coach Rowland, too. I wasn't here last year. And not saying anything negative about what's done in the past, but I think they're just at that. They took a big step as a group, and that is paying off because we're not dying in the third and fourth quarter. So when a game matters in that third and fourth quarter, especially late fourth quarter, you can still perform at that peak level. So,
and I think it's not only the physicality of things; it's also the mentality. And anybody that's around the sport of football certainly knows that there's a mentality. You got a good group of guys that work hard in the weight room. Usually that translates to stuff that happens on the football field as well. Because, if they're willing to put in that work there where it's really hard, when they go out there and get to go play the game part of it.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I feel like not only that, you're molding the mentality that these guys are like, they're learning that winning culture, the overall culture, winning culture, starting not only what we're seeing on the football field, it's starting there at the weight room as well.
Yeah, and absolutely. Now, there's one thing I've told the kids, and they hear me complain, not complain, but kind of lecture, whatever you want, whatever kind of other word you want to use for it. But talk about it is one thing we're still kind of getting better at is hydration. If you came to any of the games so far, I always go to those games, you'll see probably a few amount of kids come out on the sideline, they're cramping up a little bit. And just because they're not hydrating, not taking care of their body. So I'm talking about. I talked to the varsity after we lifted on Sunday. They came in, we lift, and then they do film. And I held the varsity back. I was like, "Hey, this is where it starts. Districts plays. If you want to be a champion, you got to do everything like a champion. It's not just practice. It's not just a football game. And so many of these kids think it is, and obviously everybody else knows. It's your sleep. It's your recovery. Yeah. It's how you eat. It's how you fuel your body. How you drink water. Don't start drinking water Thursday. That's way too late. You got to start today. Start Tuesday. Start Monday." And so that's the one thing we've been kind of trying to get better at. But these kids have been getting it, and they're getting better. So.
No, and it's a good example. I mean, everybody, I think, looks at Bixby football right now as the pinnacle, right, what they've done. And the stuff you're talking about, there's a reason their strength and conditioning guy is the biggest paid guy in strength and conditioning outside of a college setting in the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's because he is doing the same kind of stuff that you're trying to implement, and it's more, yes, we're doing this for the football field, but there's a lot more too than just being conditioned and running sprints or lifting weights. It's talking about the hydration, talking about how do we recover, talking about these little things that you can do, the mentality that starts in that weight room, and that's a culture that you were able to learn under Rob Glass to Oklahoma State that you're trying to bring here.
Yeah, absolutely, and with Coach Glass and all the success he's had wherever he's been, and especially at OSU, obviously, it's that super high culture kind of stuff, the discipline and the toughness and that kind of stuff. So obviously that's kind of my background, and so that's kind of what I wanted to try to implement that. And obviously I have to know college football,
different.
High school is very, very different. So all kind of going back to when I said pick my battles. Do I want us to be up here one day? Absolutely. We're right here. We'll keep building. Not saying we're doing bad, but we'll keep building and we'll get there and keep working on that culture and that stuff. Because some of the kids bought in totally. They're like, day one, absolutely, I love this. And then some other ones are like, why are you making me do this? We never had to do this before. And so it's like...
and then they get on the field and something happens and it clicks and it's like, I get it now.
Exactly. And so one of the things that... I never want a kid to cramp, but I'm like, that's why I told you to drink water.
Right.
One of the things we did with football to kind of help out a little bit, and I think for my mindset was to help the kids realize, wow, I actually lost a lot of water. I need to drink water. Is before practice, they weigh in, and then they write it on a sheet, and then after they weigh out and just kind of see, okay, you lost 4 pounds today. You need to drink this amount of water.
It's awesome.
And especially now it's cooling down. It's not as bad, but they're still sweating a bunch. They go to the indoor. It's warm in there. But
it can be 30 degrees, and you can still sweat pretty profusely.
Yeah, exactly. The weather outside doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think we also learned that this last week a lot. It wasn't too hot. The start of the game was a little warm on the turf.
Yeah.
It wasn't too hot. This week's not going to be too hot, but we still have a couple guys kind of cramping up a little bit, and it just, well, Coach, I didn't drink water. Oh, okay. Well, what did you eat? Oh, well, I had Doritos at lunch. Okay. Yeah. So, but now that that's affecting them a little bit, I think they're starting to get it more.
Yeah.
All
right, we talked about football, but there's other sports going on as well, and you're working forward to some other sports too. So just quickly, talk about what you're seeing with those sports and what you're implementing as far as right now in the weight room to help those sports out as well.
Yeah, so right now kind of what we're doing is with everybody else because I have a bunch of sports in our one. So I love to train everybody one-on-one, but it's just impossible.
Yeah.
So we kind of have a general off-season group, and with that, the workout's pretty similar. This last few weeks, I know we're kind of a little deeper into school now, but introducing a lot of movements and say, hey, this is, you may have done bench press before. This is what I want to see. This is how we're going to do it with me as your coach in this room. And so we're kind of getting to the point now where we have a good foundation, and we'll start kind of varying some things a little bit more. But with that, we've had just kind of a general group, and they've done really well. They've took to it. They are excited to lift. Today we went out and run, and I think they know that now because it's our third week of doing sprints outside. So they kind of expected it.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, we don't get to lift today? I wanted to do bench today. Or whatever the lift for the day is.
Right.
So they're buying in. So I'm excited to see. We also tested verticals. So my goal for that is to test them every month and just kind of see how we're changing.
Yeah.
We did it with volleyball. I did them at the end of July and then did it first week of September. And saw like an 1.5 inch increase on average, which is huge just in a month and a half. Especially for a sport in season. And I think the kids, and it makes... I had volleyball girls ask me, like, well, how does my vertical get better? And the stuff I've said before, but they don't listen, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, so the box jumps we do, the power cleans, and this, that. And they're like, oh, okay. And so they start trying a little bit harder on that because they see, okay, well, I want a better vertical because that helps me become a better athlete. For a basketball player, obviously, that's super important.
Yeah.
And so we did verticals a couple weeks ago for the first time, and I posted them up in the weight room. They're all sitting there, every athlete, and so I think it kind of drives a little competition. The kids get excited, but they've been bought in, so that's great. I have no complaints.
You know, you mentioned you have so many kids in there at one time a lot of times. Do you try to designate maybe a leader of a certain group and you know, can they help disseminate, or do you just kind of bring them all in together? You all do the same things? Like, how do you do that? Because I know eventually you may want to get to a point once a kid that is really good and can be a leader, you may say, hey, you know, you guys need to go do this, and you can trust them to kind of patrol. But it's hard to maybe do that at the start, I would think. Yeah,
so with the kids that were here in Summer Pride I've had since June, I think I know those kids. I know their character. I know, are you a hard work in the weight room, or do you kind of slack off? And so, like for football, softball, and volleyball, those are kind of in-season ones, and the ones I had a bunch in the weight room this summer, I know who those kids are. So if there's something like that where, especially those first few weeks with those 3 sports that were in season, and I had to teach everybody else how to do stuff, I did kind of do what you were saying. Say, hey, okay, you 3 guys, like, do me a favor, help me out here.
Yeah.
There's 15 football guys here. I can't watch them all right now because I got to teach these other 40 kids how to do power clean. And then so now I'm starting to learn the other kids, other sports, and then, you know, now I see what their character is. We've been lifting for about 5 weeks, so like, do I notice that you kind of slack off a little bit? You like to go talk to your friend? Are you in the bathroom for 15 minutes at a time in between workouts? Right. Are you sitting there pushing weight, getting stronger, you know, all that kind of stuff. So with those other sports that are a little bit newer to me starting in August, I think we're getting a better feel for who those kids are, at least I am. And those ones that have been there, I think I have a good idea. And I always try to talk to coaches, say, hey, coach, like, who are your kids?
Right.
Like, who are kids I can count on? Who are the kids I need to be on? Who are kids that, okay, these are developmental kids. Like, hey, in the next year, if we could do something with these kids, they could be an athlete. They could be a player for us. So I always like to have those conversations because, one, it helps me learn the kids and the roster. But also, like, okay, hey, maybe this is, for this athlete, yeah, they're really good, but we just need to work on jumping. Like, they can't jump, and they're a basketball kid or whatever it is, right? And so I was like, okay, maybe that's one thing I know in my head. So when we're doing jumps that day in the weight room, I can go up to that kid and say, hey, good job. You know, and just kind of increase that confidence and keep working that stuff.
It's just, it's an interesting thing because you have the individual part of it. Then you have what does the coach want to bring in and what do they want to get better at, and you have to think about that generality. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things involved because you have individual goals, but ultimately it's to help get to those team goals as well. But if they hit those individual goals, it's going to help that team hit their goals. Absolutely. So, and it just, and I also think when it comes to the weight room itself, the culture in there, you know, I've never seen a team that was good that didn't have somebody that was that person in the weight room that was the leader. You know, I think, you know, I've seen it well documented, like Tim Tebow, for instance. Yeah. Tim Tebow wasn't necessarily a person that related to a bunch of the players that were on his team, but when we went in there, he inspired those others to say, hey, let's do this. And they won national championships because of it. Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, like, identifying those kids that can help be those leaders and push those others. That's so important. Yeah, and so, you know, actually I saw a great quote by a strength coach, or maybe another quote, but it's either way. Something a strength coach said the other day, and he's like,
the strongest kids on your team aren't always best players, but the best players are always strong.
Yeah,
like they embrace the weight room. Your kids that are going to go make plays on the field, the court, whatever sport it is, the weight room is always going to be a big part.
And those kids lift those ones around them.
Exactly, and that's the thing I love to see is when we're in the weight room. Okay, maybe Johnny's having a bad day because whatever else. That leader can kind of pick him up. Let's go. Let's get after it. Get kind of some juice going, everything like that. So yeah, I think it's been great to see some of those kids kind of start to emerge a little bit. Especially with me, they maybe not know me as a strength coach, and now that we've been doing it for 3 months or a month, depending on what group you're in, they're starting to feel more comfortable and break out of their shell. And they know what I like. They know kind of what the standard is. So,
well, you're doing a good job. It's nice having you here. It's good being able to talk to you. And I think we are seeing the results out there on the field as well. And we think you're seeing them inside that room itself too. So really appreciate the time, Weston. And
yes,
we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely.
Coach Franklin with Strength and Conditioning. That's going to do it for today's episode of Coach's Corner. It's been brought to you by Loftus and Wetzel Insurance. Thanks to Chris behind the camera as always. Jordan Woodruff saying so long. And until next time, go Cats.